What's up, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and this is the Weekly Fix, the show where we round up all the gaming, entertainment, and esports headlines you may have missed this week. We have an exclusive interview with developers from FromSoftware where they say that Armored Core 6 will not be a Soulsborne-type game. Plus, Microsoft is stating that the Activision Blizzard deal is fair because Sony has more exclusives. In the entertainment world, we have our first look at Joaquin Phoenix in the upcoming Joker movie sequel, and a live-action God of War series has officially been announced. I hope you're having a cozy day, and let's jump right into it. If you're watching the Game Awards, you probably saw that incredibly cool-looking reveal for the mech game Armored Core 6. The Armored Core days were a bit before my dive into gaming, so seeing that FromSoftware was creating a mech game was super exciting, but I was curious if this game would have Soulsborne elements to it. Luckily, we have an exclusive interview with FromSoftware that answered all of our burning questions. When asked if Armored Core 6 would be closer to Soulsborne games than the past titles, FromSoftware president Hidetaka Miyazaki answered, "No, we've not been making a conscious effort to try and direct it more towards Soulsborne-type gameplay." First of all, let me just make that clear. Miyazaki went on to say that Armored Core 6 will be a third-person action game with a focus on customizing your mecha with the same mission-based gameplay of its predecessors. In a separate statement, Masaru Yamamura, Sekiro's lead designer, also went on to say that boss battles are the highlight of the game, which should be exciting for us players who love a good challenge. Yamamura said, quote, "There are no elements directly referring to Sekiro, but I feel both titles share the same essence of battle, such as aggressive, speed change, and action-oriented fighting." When asked if Armored Core would have more of a Soulsborne essence in terms of heavy combat, mystery, exploration, and difficulty, Miyazaki said, "I think rather than being typically Soulsborne, these are just things that are typical of FromSoftware in general. These are things we've always sort of enjoyed and always prided ourselves on." Miyazaki didn't want to give away too much information on the story, so we'll just have to wait to get further details and a future trailer to see how Armored Core 6 will play and feel. But I am so excited for this. Just put me in hibernation mode till it launches. Xbox has had a lot of back and forth with PlayStation this year, and there's another response from Xbox boss Phil Spencer about PlayStation's move to block Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition. In an interview with the Second Request podcast, Spencer said, quote, "There's only been one major opposer to the deal, and it's Sony. And Sony's trying to protect their dominance on console, and the way they want to grow is by making Xbox smaller." Spencer made sure to reiterate that Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard is to strengthen Xbox's presence in the mobile gaming sphere rather than to strip games away from PlayStation. However, last week the Federal Trade Commission announced its intent to block the deal, stating it would hurt the market competitiveness in the console space. We'll be sure to keep you updated on the latest news as soon as it breaks on this acquisition. Modern Warfare 2 took over Elden Ring's sales dominance as it is now the best-selling game in the US of 2022. While I'm a little sad Elden Ring lost its title, it's really no surprise that Call of Duty would take over. According to the NPD Group, Modern Warfare 2 held its top spot in November, beating out God of War Ragnarok, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Sonic Frontiers. Modern Warfare 2 is also the fastest-selling Call of Duty, having beat out Black Ops 2 by making $1 billion in just 10 days. After last year's Call of Duty Vanguard didn't live up to expectations, Modern Warfare 2 was the Call of Duty game that players really needed, and clearly, looking at the numbers here, wanted. Actually, come to think of it, I think Modern Warfare 2 was the first game in recent years that I've pre-ordered digitally just to get it to the access for early beta. Guess I'm part of those record-breaking sales numbers. You're welcome, Activision. Are you excited to play Armored Core 6? And actually, how would you make a Soulsborne mech game? Is that even possible? Let us know.
Insomniac Games has announced that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 will swing onto the PlayStation 5 next fall. Insomniac's creative director Brian Inahar says, "What a year it's been for PlayStation Studios. Here at Insomniac Games, we've been in absolute awe of the work of our peers. Congrats to everyone on a successful 2022, and here's to next year being just as exciting as we continue to get Marvel's Spider-Man 2 ready for release next fall." The work of their peers include Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, and God of War Ragnarok, all released this year. Now, Insomniac had already reassured fans of Spider-Man 2's release window back in October, but as delays are quite common in the video game industry, many were concerned that the sequel could slip into 2024. Now that God of War Ragnarok is out, there is no first-party PlayStation exclusive with a release date, except for the PSVR 2 games, of course. I consider those separate. Along with Spider-Man 2, Insomniac is also working on Wolverine, and there's an expansion for Horizon Forbidden West out in the spring, but that's about it for announced games from PlayStation Studios. So if Spider-Man 2 is the next full PS5 game released, that'll be quite the gap between it and God of War Ragnarok. Moving on, the next Tomb Raider game will be published by, checks notes, Amazon. Amazon Games has signed a deal with Crystal Dynamics to support the development of and publish the next mainline Tomb Raider game being made in Unreal Engine 5. The companies announced a partnership today, saying they, quote, have reached an agreement under which Crystal Dynamics will develop a new multi-platform Tomb Raider title, with Amazon Games providing full support and publishing the game globally. Crystal Dynamics, which was purchased by Embracer Group in August, noted that the acquisition has allowed for more unconventional publishing agreements, such as this deal with Amazon. Head of Crystal Dynamics, Scott Amos, said, transformative is what we're looking for. And with Amazon Games, we found a team that shares our creative vision, ambitions, and values for a Lara Croft universe across the spectrum of possibilities. They are uniquely positioned to rewrite what publishing and development collaborations are, and we're eager to forge this new path together, starting with building the biggest and best Tomb Raider game yet. A relatively vague description of the new game was also shared, though it essentially confirms what players would expect from Crystal Dynamics' next game. Quote, the as yet untitled new Tomb Raider game is a single-player, narrative-driven adventure that continues Lara Croft's story in the Tomb Raider series. It includes all the elements that have made Tomb Raider one of the most revered franchises in gaming, giving players control of the confident and multidimensional hero Lara Croft in an environment that rewards exploration and creative pathfinding, with mind-bending puzzles to solve and a wide variety of enemies to face and overcome. Crystal Dynamics is drawing on the power and cutting-edge technology of Unreal Engine 5 to take storytelling to the next level in the biggest, most expansive Tomb Raider game to date. The title is currently in early development, and additional details will be announced at a later date. Now, as a big fan of the recent Tomb Raider trilogy, I can't wait to see what Crystal Dynamics comes up with next, and also that new Perfect Dark game they were called in to help with. What the f is up with that? And finally today, the VR mode for Resident Evil Village will arrive as free content on February 22nd, the same day as the PSVR 2 launch. Anyone that owns the original version of Resident Evil Village on PlayStation 5 will be able to download and play the update for free if they also own PSVR 2. Capcom's official synopsis reads, a deeper and more captivating adventure awaits with PlayStation VR 2, as Ethan Winter's journey takes full advantage of the headset's advanced features. Did you pre-order a PSVR 2? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely interested to see how it does, considering the original PSVR only had a 5% attach rate, and the new one is expensive.
Microsoft is at it again, trying to convince the world that they should be allowed to go through with the biggest acquisition in games history. Via Bloomberg, Microsoft President and Vice Chairman Brad Smith was speaking at a shareholders meeting, telling attendees that Sony's position in the games industry is so dominant that Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard poses no threat to them. The Federal Trade Commission isn't exactly buying that argument, though, as they've recently announced plans to block the buyout. Smith said, quote, the FTC's case is really based on a market that they've identified that they say has two companies and two products, Sony PlayStation and Microsoft Xbox. If you look at the global market, Sony has 70% of that market and we have 30%. So the first thing a judge is going to have to decide is whether the FTC lawsuit is a case that will promote competition, or is it really instead of a case that will protect the largest competitor from competition? Wow, okay, first of all, root of them did not consider Nintendo and their 114 million Switch consoles sold to date. But understandable, as even Nintendo doesn't consider themselves as being in competition with PlayStation and Xbox. Smith also pointed out that Sony has 286 exclusive games, and Xbox only has 59. So a judge looking at the case would have to consider if going from 59 exclusives to 60 is really that much of a problem for the industry. And US judges might not be the only ones Smith and Xbox will have to convince. Organizations in Europe and the UK have also launched investigations into the deal. Staying on the topic of Sony, the lineup of games coming to PlayStation Plus this month has been revealed, and it's a pretty good collection if you like action-adventure games. There's a collection of recent Far Cry games with Far Cry 5, Far Cry New Dawn, and Far Cry Primal joining the list. New Dawn is the most recent of that bunch and got a 7.5 from us in 2019. Far Cry 5 and Primal received an 8.9 and 7.9 respectively. Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Yakuza spin-off Judgment hit the catalog as well. And if that's not enough Yakuza action for you, Yakuza 0 is already on PS Plus. Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and its sequel, Shadow of War, are also coming, and if you haven't played these games, definitely add them to your list. Shadow of Mordor pioneered the Nemesis system, a gameplay mechanic that can take any of the random one-off enemies you encounter and turn them into a real villain with a unique name, a history with the player, and a real grudge against you. It's an incredibly unique feature that still hasn't been done on the same level by any other game since. And this game came out in 2014. There are a lot more games coming, and it would take me way too long to list all of them. Plus, our editor will probably get really annoyed with the length of this episode. So, for the full list of titles, check out the PlayStation blog, and we're gonna move on to the next story. Switching gears to Nintendo, the opening date for the Super Nintendo World Hollywood location has been revealed. The park will open February 17th, 2023, so it is not too far away. Super Nintendo World is the latest addition to Universal Studios Hollywood in California. This joins the original Japan location that opened in Osaka back in February of 2021. Attractions and destinations that will be available in the Hollywood location are the Mario Kart ride, the Toadstool Cafe, the 1UP Factory store, and more. Donkey Kong and Pokemon expansions are coming to the Osaka location, so hopefully those come stateside as well. Can't wait to check this out because I live in California and it's a lot cheaper for me to get to LA than it is to fly to Japan.
Microsoft has been making some big promises lately as it works to encourage regulators to permit its $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Among those promises was a deal offered to Sony pledging that Call of Duty would remain available on PlayStation consoles for 10 years, a deal that reportedly also includes PlayStation Plus rights. As reported by Bloomberg, the rights to sell the game via Sony's PlayStation subscription service were promised alongside Microsoft's previously stated offer to Sony for 10 years of Call of Duty on Sony hardware if the Activision Blizzard acquisition went through. Sony has yet to accept the offer and has continued to raise concerns with the UK's Competition and Markets Authority and the Federal Trade Commission about the acquisition. The offer for inclusion on PlayStation Plus is especially notable due to Microsoft's growing promotion of its own subscription service, Xbox Game Pass. Microsoft has previously stated its intentions to put Call of Duty on Game Pass if the deal closes, and Sony has claimed that Game Pass significantly leads PlayStation in subscription numbers. Meanwhile, Nintendo has accepted the 10-year deal offered by Microsoft to put Call of Duty on Nintendo consoles. But the deal is far from done. Most recently, the FTC announced it would sue to block Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, saying it would, quote, harm competition in high-performance gaming consoles and subscription services by denying or degrading rivals' access to its popular content. We'll continue following this huge story here at IGN. Moving on, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions of Hogwarts Legacy have been delayed again to April 4th, 2023, while the Nintendo Switch version will launch on July 25th. The game's official Twitter account posted the update, but didn't give a reason as to why the last generation version had been delayed. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series versions of Hogwarts Legacy are unaffected and will launch as planned on February 10th. This marks the second delay for Hogwarts Legacy, as it was originally expected to launch during the holiday period this year before being pushed back to the February date. Developer Avalanche Software has been slowly but surely sharing different elements of the game, showing off its Hogsmeade quest, flying broom sections, and the dark magic at Hogwarts. Regarding those last-gen versions, though, the IGN community seems to agree that it's time to let the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch versions go and focus on current-gen hardware. IGN user CodesJS says it's, quote, obviously another case where there are issues trying to make a brand new game while still catering to older tech. Hopefully 2023 is the last year of these duo-gen releases. But what do you think? Do you think it's time to let the last generation go and focus on this generation of consoles? Let us know in the comments. And finally today, Sonic Frontiers has sold more than 2.5 million copies since its launch on November 6th. An official tweet from Sega revealed the figure, which presumably takes into account units sold globally across PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and PC platforms. Sega unveiled the 2023 roadmap for Sonic Frontiers earlier in November, stating the open-world action game would receive 3 updates throughout the year. These will bring new challenge modes, a photo mode, a new playable character, and fresh story content to the fast-paced adventure. Sonic Frontiers' launch didn't go entirely without issues, however, as the game suffered from significant pop-in when it was released. Regardless, the positive fan reaction to Sonic's move to an open-world format was enough to make Frontiers a serious contender for the fan-voted Player's Voice category at the Game Awards. In our review, IGN gave the game a 7 out of 10, stating it is, quote, a delightfully weird and experimental evolution of the Sonic games so many of us grew up with.
It's time to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking about what the recently announced God of War series could look like, plus we dissect the first teaser image for Joker 2 starring Joaquin Phoenix. See you in a bit. Welcome back! Prime Video has officially announced a live-action God of War series to be in development, with Christopher Judge trying to throw his hat into the race to star as Kratos. But first, Joker director Todd Phillips has shared a teaser image for his upcoming sequel film, Joker Folie à Deux. Let's deep dive into it.
All right, we got our first glimpse of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker thanks to director Todd Phillips. Now, he took to Instagram and posted this image of the actor with the caption, "Day one, our boy, #Joker." Now, Phoenix looks rather emaciated, which is likely due to how seriously he takes his roles with his method acting. And of course, fans have been bombarding the director with questions about showing us a similar photo of Lady Gaga in the role of Harley Quinn, to which he took to the comments section and said, quote, "Getting a lot of these messages in my DMs and on here. Sorry to say that Lady Gaga does not start with us until after the new year. So it's gonna be a bit." Now, no worries, as I'm sure we can all wait ever so patiently as the pieces of the sequel fall into place. Now, it'll definitely be interesting to see Lady Gaga's take on the character, as we've only known Margot Robbie in the live-action role of the villainous vixen in recent years. I think it's time for a very fresh take on the character, maybe with a slightly different voice? Who knows? Anyways, we can expect Joker Folie à Deux October 4th, 2024. So we're getting another Joker movie, but we will not be receiving a Batman Beyond movie with Michael Keaton. Yeah, that was actually in the works at one point, according to a Hollywood Reporter newsletter. Now, apparently, the writer for the upcoming Flash movie and Batgirl, Christina Hodson, pitched a Batman Beyond idea that got those DC executives interested. Hodson was hard at work on a script for the film until James Gunn pulled out the guns with Saffron in tow and tanked the entire project. Now, the film reportedly would have featured Keaton's Bruce Wayne in a romantic relationship with Catwoman, likely Michelle Pfeiffer's variant. Now, further DC projects are currently on hold until James Gunn and the new team figure out what direction they'd like to go with projects, so maybe they'll revisit the idea at some point. And speaking of revisiting ideas and projects, it looks like we'll be heading back into the world of Game of Thrones with the spin-off of Jon Snow in the Jon Snow Show. Now, Kit Harington is giving fans a bit of a tease as to what to expect from the titular character and where his mindset is after the events of the series finale of the main show. Now, while speaking with Entertainment Weekly, the actor says Jon Snow is not okay, and that, quote, "At the end of the show, when we find him in that cell, he's preparing to be beheaded, and he wants to be. He's done. The fact he goes to the wall is the greatest gift and also the greatest curse." Now, he goes on to talk about how his character has to live with the trauma of killing those he loved, and that by the end of the show, he's ultimately not okay. So we'll be getting a very broken Jon Snow whenever we begin to see things develop on that front. Boy, now we had heard rumblings that Kratos and Atreus might be embarking on a new live-action adventure, but a press release from Sony this morning confirms it. God of War is being adapted into an original series on Prime Video. Now, from the sound of things, the show will closely follow the premise of the 2018 game and will follow Kratos as he journeys with his son Atreus to the highest peak of Midgard as a final request from his late wife, getting tangled up with some Norse gods in the process. As for who's making this happen, Rafe Judkins will be showrunner and executive producer. Now, he previously worked on Wheel of Time, another epic fantasy Amazon series, and Mark Fergus and Hawk Otsby, whose credits include Iron Man and Children of Men, will be writing as well as executive producing. Now, if none of these credits are doing it for you, or you think this show could use another executive producer, well, you'll be happy to know Cory Barlog, creative director of the original 2018 game, will also be heavily involved. Of course, the big questions now are who's playing Kratos and when will this show premiere? And we'll definitely keep you posted on that, but considering his awesome performances in the last two games, I'm hoping Christopher Judge reprises his role. Or bring back T.C. Carson, the original voice of Kratos. That man's pretty cool. Now, until then, we'll have The Last of Us series hitting HBO next month to tide us over, but Amazon is apparently doing the same thing. And in addition to God of War, there's also a Fallout show on the way. And Fallout is technically an Xbox property now. A console wars meet streaming wars. Now, it sounds like video game shows might be the new superhero movie. Which, speaking of, we recently reported that Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984 director Patty Jenkins would not be returning for Wonder Woman 3. Now, there's been a lot of he said, she said about this, and here's some more. Patty says she did not walk away from the project over creative differences, as previous reports claimed. More interestingly, her Star Wars movie Rogue Squadron is not dead. Now, in a post on Twitter, the director explained that she's not one to air dirty laundry, but felt the need to correct inaccuracies, and called the reports of her leaving Wonder Woman 3 attractive clickbait. Now, from the sound of things, Wonder Woman 3's cancellation might have been a casualty of recent shakeups following the WB Discovery merger and the new long-term plan for the superhero universe under James Gunn and Peter Safran. Either way, Jenkins explained that the reason she'd initially stepped away from Rogue Squadron was due to scheduling conflicts with Wonder Woman 3. But now that that movie's not happening, her schedule just opened up, and apparently she and Lucasfilm made a new deal to actively develop the Star Wars project. Now, there's no guarantee it'll actually happen, but S-foils locked into attack position are better than crashing into the side of the Death Star. Sticking with the running theme of streaming adaptations and superheroes, we've been hearing about a live-action My Hero Academia movie since August, but we've got some updates. Now, for starters, Netflix is officially distributing the movie, with Legendary Pictures producing. Shinsuke Sato, whose credits include Alice in Borderland, will direct, and Joby Harold will be on writing duty. Harold's most recent credits are on the Disney Plus Obi-Wan Kenobi series, so make of that what you will. Now, bear in mind, Disney Plus shows and Star Wars projects tend to have quite a few cooks in the kitchen when it comes to storytelling. Netflix hasn't had the best track record for in-house anime adaptations between the now infamous Death Note movie and the short-lived Cowboy Bebop series. Now, that hasn't slowed the streaming giant down though, and there's still a One Piece series and another live-action Death Note on the way. Believe it or not. Now, Legendary Entertainment's track record for adapting huge Japanese properties is a bit better between the Godzilla Monsterverse and Detective Pikachu. Now, I don't know, it could go either way with this one. What are your thoughts on this? Should real people be allowed to be anime characters, or should anime stay two-dimensional? Let us know in the comments. Jackie Chan has confirmed Rush Hour 4 is happening. Now, reported by Variety, the martial arts superstar said, quote, "We're talking about Rush Hour 4 right now." Well, that's exciting news, yay! And it follows news from 2018, where Jackie Chan's co-star Chris Tucker confirmed a fourth was in the works, calling it the Rush of All Rushes. But whatever the hell that means. Now, as far as we know, there's no director currently attached and no release date just yet, so it seems there's no rush on getting Rush Hour 4 into theaters. And finally, while we're on the topic of rushes, a head rush, oh boy, mamma mia. Our boy, little plumber boy Mario received just that as he went up and down and all around those pipes seen in this new clip from the Mario Brothers movie that premiered at the Game Awards. Now, Toad showed our plumber boy around, giving us a good glimpse of the world they'll be building with the upcoming film. And honestly, I think, the more we see of this film and the less we hear of Chris Pratt's Mario voice, the more excited I personally get for this animated movie. Now, April 7th, 2023 is gonna be a special day for the Mushroom Kingdom and all the Toad lookalikes in there. They all look like Toad. It's weird. Well, drop a Yahoo in the comments section if you're excited.
There's been a lot of drama surrounding Panda Global, as its CEO was accused of sabotaging the fan tournament Smash World Tour. Dr. Alan Bunny, Panda Global CEO, was alleged to have been telling tournament organizers last year that Smash World Tour was shutting down in attempts to keep people from booking its shows. Organizers of Smash World Tour released a statement revealing that many organizers were concerned about joining up in 2022 due to Alan, the CEO of Panda, telling them that they were going to get shut down and not come back in 2022. Panda Global was running its own official Nintendo licensed Smash Bros. Event at the time, which wasn't exactly a good look. Panda released a statement that did not sit well with fans on December 2nd, saying that the Panda Cup team had no influence in canceling the Smash World Tour. After that poor tweet was sent out, Panda released another statement on Twitter December 4th that said Alan is no longer CEO effective immediately, and that the Panda Cup finale was postponed due to security concerns for their staff and contractors. Following this, a series of Smash Bros. Players, influencers, and commentators signed with Panda have announced their split from Panda and resignation. This is all fresh news, and we'll be closely monitoring this development and keep you updated on any news that might follow. Following the cancellation of Smash World Tour, Mainstage 2022 became the final major non-invitational style event of the year. Mego was a last-minute addition to the tournament and had only practiced 3 days heading into the competition. However, he won over SFOP, Moki, Leffen, and IBDW to close his Melee run and go home the champion. Mego defeated IBDW 3-2 for the final match. However, this was a huge event for IBDW, who entered Mainstage after the cancellation of Smash World Tour and left Panda to become a free agent. While competing, he wore a white shirt with the text "Free Agent, DMs Open," openly searching for a sponsorship. So, if anyone wants to sponsor IBDW, now's the time. I'm Stella Chung, and that was your weekly fix. We'll be back here next Saturday with more of the biggest gaming and entertainment news of the week. See you then.